What up? So it's been a couple days and the NBA trade deadline has been finished off with. We already got our Woj bombs and shams and all that jazz. Nothing too big on the trade deadline. There was a couple of scoops. I mean, you had Nikola Vucevic traded from the Orlando Magic to the Chicago Bulls, and the Orlando Magic also traded away young stud 25-year-old Aaron Gordon to the Denver Nuggets, which was a good take on that side. Rajon Rondo from the Atlanta Hawks was traded to the LA Clippers, which we're going to cover more in depth here today on that side of things. Evan Fournier from the Magic got traded to the Celtics, and a couple other trades within there. Can't really think of all of them top of my head as of right now, but the one we're covering is Rajon Rondo to the LA Clippers. The LA Lakers did not make any trades. There was in talks about a Kyle Lowry possible trade destination for the LA Lakers, but during bargaining and during their agreements, it didn't go down with because of Talenton Horton Tucker. The Lakers did not want to give away that young stud. And besides that, they're going to give away Dennis Schroeder, KCP. I think Wesley Matthews was also in that mix. I'm shocked the Lakers didn't do that, but the Lakers understand they just need a big, and they could potentially get Andre Drummond through a buyout. And the rest of the roster is pretty much kind of set on that end. So it is what it is. Good move for the LA Clippers. Let me backtrack. Great move for the LA Clippers. They needed a floor general. They needed a point guard with experience. They needed that veteran locker room experience, as well as that presence on their team. Rajon Rondo is a huge impact for the LA Clippers. Now, they did give away Lou Will, but when it comes to the roles within the team, Rajon Rondo is much needed ever since they got bounced in the second round, blowing a 3-1 series lead to the Denver Nuggets in the 2020 NBA playoffs. Montrezl Harrell left the Clippers to go to the Lakers, and now Lou Will is gone, and he's going to the Atlanta Hawks. So this is a great move for the LA Clippers. They've been very sneaky and low-key, flying under the radar this whole season. This would be great for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard playing off the ball, and for them to not stress enough playing more ISO basketball. For the LA Lakers, I still have the Lakers coming out of the Western Conference. Now, this is a good move for the Clippers to have a fierce threat for the Lakers, but let's jump in here more in depth on. Actually, I don't even know what show we're on. What is this? Oh, Undisputed, and we'll get Skip Bayless howling out on the LA Clippers.
Well, get this, Rajon Rondo is returning to the city he just won a title in, but not to the team he won a title with. Yesterday, the LA Clippers acquired Rondo from the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for Lou Williams and 2 future second-round picks. Rondo will provide some pass-first leadership out of the guard spot, something Clippers coach Ty Lue is very excited about, telling reporters he's fiery. That's what we need. And Skip, I know you think it's a good move. I saw you tweet this last night. Congrats, Clippers. You just won your first NBA championship. We're now.
I know how Skip trolls most of the time, but I'm pretty sure he's very serious about the LA Clippers. I get his perspective, but listen, come on, man. The Clippers would not even defeat the Brooklyn Nets, even if they go in the NBA Finals. The Nets have always had the Clippers number. Now, would I love to see a Clippers and a Nets Finals? I actually would. I would, but that's not the case. The Lakers will be facing the Nets in the NBA Finals, and that's going a different direction. But besides from that, the Clippers are looking nice, bringing in Serge Ibaka, let alone having in Rajon Rondo within your team. And playoff Rondo is a thing. We've known that with the Pelicans, and especially with the LA Lakers as they won the championship. And Rondo was that third man the whole 4 series they had within the playoffs. Huge impact for the Clippers to pick them up on that side. But no, the LA Clippers will not be representing the Western Conference. Now, I do believe and expect that the Clippers will meet the Lakers in the conference finals. Now, we have to see how the seedings depend, because as of right now, the Jazz and the Suns are the top 2 seeds. And you do have the Clippers at the 3rd seed and then the Lakers at the 4th. And with LeBron and AD out for some time, who knows if the Lakers have to be a 6 or 7 seed entering the playoffs. We'll see.
Joined by Fox Sports analyst Chris Broussard. Chris, does Rondo make the Clippers the favorites in the West now?
No, Lakers, but the Clippers are second.
Yeah, I like the deal. I'm not as high on it as Skip. I'm nowhere near as high on it as Skip. They improved greatly. There's no doubt about it. But both teams fully healthy, even though I think the Lakers missed an opportunity to get Kyle Lowry. I still like the Lakers. Both teams fully healthy. But the Clippers got better and they got closer to the Lakers and they improved their chances of upsetting them in the playoffs. Rondo, you talked about it, Jen, with Ty Lue's words. That's the first thing. He brings leadership. He brings accountability. And the Clippers know he's a guy that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George respect. So when he says something, they know this guy's won championships. This guy's played with some of the greatest players ever. He has our respect, and that's important. Remember, that's a team that, as far as players, is really devoid of great leadership, and they filled that void with Rajon Rondo. Now, on the court, they are one of the worst clutch teams, or at least one of the worst good clutch teams as good in the clutch. All right, they're 1-3 in close games of 3 points or more. That's the worst of any playoff team in the Western Conference. And it's because they really don't have a playmaker at the end of the games. They put the ball in Kawhi's hands, put it in Paul George's hands, and yeah, they can dribble, they can make plays here and there, but that's not what they do. They don't have that vision. They just don't have that knack for making plays for others. Rondo brings that. So he'll get the ball to the right players, including Kawhi and PG, in the right spots for them to be their best at the end of games. So that's huge. Remember Kawhi Leonard said last year out of the bubble, we need to improve our basketball IQ. That's what Rondo brings. Lou Williams, look, he's had a great career. He had a great career with the Clippers, but this is his worst year in 7 seasons. And you couldn't play him at the end of the games because defensively, teams were just hunting. We saw the Lakers do that time and time again. Wherever he's at, we're getting him in pick and roll and going at Lou Williams. And then offensively, in the playoffs, he doesn't give you what he gave you in the regular season, which is the opposite of Rondo, who every single year, outside of that one lost season in Dallas, has given you improved play in the playoffs. So the Clippers got much better. This is a good move, but still, I wouldn't put them ahead of the Lakers.
Hey, or should you? And people who are in the moment, they understand the Lakers have their injuries with LeBron and AD, so some people are expecting the Lakers are going to get out of the first round or they won't make the playoffs, and that's laughable. Now, there is a perspective that the Lakers did not make any trades within the deadline, and they're looking for bigs. They're looking for some better role pieces out there. And you got to remember, guys, and this is an unprecedented NBA season of great veteran talent that are going to be bought out. LaMarcus Aldridge was bought out. Blake Griffin was bought out. Andre Drummond was bought out. And you're going to see some other players like George Hill. Boogie Cousins was bought out. I'm probably missing some other names. DeMar DeRozan may be bought out. You guys got to keep your eye on that. If DeMar DeRozan's bought out, I mean, and if he joins the Lakers, sheesh. Because the Brooklyn Nets, they just got Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. They're set. They're set on their side of things. The Lakers are fine. I fully expect the Lakers to pull Andre Drummond in the next day or two. Andre Drummond's going to be checking out a couple franchises. And since the Nets already got LaMarcus Aldridge, the LA Lakers will be getting Andre Drummond to fill their 5 that big, which is huge because Marcus Gasol, he's not going to get it done with. He won't. So the Lakers' front court are going to be back to Anthony Davis and now an Andre Drummond, as I fully expect. And I actually expect the LA Lakers to pull out another name in free agency if there's another veteran that's bought out. But anything along those lines, the Lakers will be representing the Western Conference. I fully expect a conference finals of the Clippers and Lakers. That's going 6 or 7. I'm leaning more of 7. I believe with the LA Lakers this season, last season they usually won their playoff series in 4 to 5 games. Actually, my bad, 5 or 6. And this season, I'm fully expecting more 6 to 7 game series on the Lakers side of things.
I agree. I don't think it makes them the favorite in the West. I like it. I like the Rondo addition. I think Kawhi is a leader. He's just not a vocal leader. Skip it. And, at some point in time, Chris, you've been around this game long enough to know sometimes your play is not good enough to be leadership. You got to pull some guys aside. You need to call a team meeting and say, guys, just isn't getting it done. Rondo will do that. Rondo's like, hey, Kawhi, bro, what was that? We need more. PG, come on, bro. You better than this. And everybody else was on eggshells because the last guy that possibly told Kawhi and PG that he played upstairs for the Lakers, that's what happened. And so now Lou Will, the last of that tough niche dark group, Skip, you remember that group that took 2 games from Golden State? They're no longer there now.
And I told you guys with a couple of my videos in the past that Kawhi Leonard is done winning championships. Now, is he one of the top 5 players in the world? Is Kawhi Leonard going to be on a contender? Yes and yes. But due to Kawhi Leonard's legacy, I don't expect Kawhi Leonard to win any more championships. LeBron and the Lakers probably have 1 or 2 left in the tank the next 2 to 3 seasons. The Brooklyn Nets will be winning at least 1 championship in the next 3 seasons or so. And I fully expect the Golden State Warriors to knock out one last championship with Curry, Dre, and Clay. I don't expect I believe the Clippers can get 1 finals appearance, but I feel like I understand that they would probably most likely drop to the Brooklyn Nets. That's not an objective standard, but basically, I don't expect Kawhi Leonard to win a championship with the Clippers. He already had his peak, his high area in his career, which was that 1 year in Toronto with the 2019 season. After those NBA Finals, Kawhi Leonard was the quote-unquote best player in the world, the man, the player, as he won a championship. The whole offseason was on him, like if he was OJ. I mean, they were following him everywhere. They wanted to know what he was doing. They had the Clippers, Lakers, Raptors as candidates. He was on his Hollywood show. Now, that has passed. And when I say that has passed, it's now going back to LeBron James's new era. And Kawhi Leonard had that one little stunt when it came to it. So Kawhi Leonard will be representing with the LA Clippers, maybe 1 finals appearance, maybe in the next 2 seasons or so, but he'll get 1, but he's not going to win a championship. You can't have LeBron James with the Lakers win a championship or multiple, but then bounce it back to the Clippers. That's not happening. Kawhi had his moment. He had his time in the league, and now the NBA is just going to send him off to where the Clippers are somewhat, not imploding, but, I mean, Montrezl Harrell was a huge piece. He's gone. Lou Will was a huge piece. He's gone. Rondo's a nice piece, but Rondo's not winning back-to-back championships. That's not happening, man. And Kawhi Leonard's not going to win a championship for LeBron James or Kevin Durant with this day and age. So, is what it is on that side of things. The Clippers are still looking somewhat nice. I don't trust Ty Lue as a head coach. Coming down to X's and O's. You got to remember Kawhi Leonard. He started with the Spurs with Popovich. They had a team system. He would play off the bench. Or my bad, he would play off the ball. He won a Finals MVP, and pretty much he didn't have to do too much to get that Finals MVP as a star. He was pretty much a role player that had potential to be an all-star in the future, as everyone saw that. He went to the Toronto Raptors. Now he was the man, but he would play off the ball in a team system. Kyle Lowry was a floor general. I mean, NBA Finals games against the Warriors to where Kawhi Leonard didn't touch the ball in the first 5 minutes or so. He would play off the ball. It's a team system. Now with the Clippers, they're making Kawhi Leonard bring up the ball from time to time. They're making them in the half-court set to him to play ISO basketball. That's not his bread and butter. He can do it from time to time, but he needs to play in a team offensive system. Doc Rivers and Ty Lue, that's not in their nature. That's not in their DNA. And they're feeding too much Kawhi and Paul George to initiate the offense. You have Patrick Beverly at the 1. They don't have a true floor general. So now bringing Rajon Rondo is going to enlighten Paul George's and Kawhi Leonard's performance, as well as Mr. Broussard said, this is actually going to help out with them in the clutch. Rajon Rondo has been playing in the clutch with the Lakers in the playoffs last season. This is going to elevate them, especially in the playoffs.
Lou Will, that heartbeat of the team, they're gone now. So this is a remade team in Kawhi and Paul George's image. They had to do this. Kawhi is a free agent after this season. Paul George, they invested Oklahoma City got like 100,000 picks over the next 7 years, Skip. Hopefully they turn it out to something.
Right.
But they had to make this move, Chris, because Kawhi's a free agent. You don't win the championship this year. Why are you so sure Kawhi gonna come back and do what? It's not.
Well, Kawhi Leonard just bought a new, I think, $13 million house home in the Los Angeles area here. He's settled. He's been part of LA. He wants to stay in LA. I do not expect Kawhi Leonard to move off. That makes 0 sense on his end. He's chilling. Kawhi's chilling, man. He's got 2 championships. He's cool with it. Does he want to compete? Yes, but he's not going to leave Jerry West. He's not going to leave Steve Ballmer and this multi-million-dollar corporation and this business, let alone for this city of LA. Because if he leaves LA, of course he's not going to the Lakers. And where else would he go? No, he's staying with the LA Clippers. He'll sign a 5-year extension and then pretty much call it quits around 37 years of age. I can see Kawhi Leonard actually retiring when he's like 33, but he'll make sure to get his money.
Getting here, teams are loading up. You're starting to see guys. You see what Brooklyn did. Who's to say you don't get two other guys to say, you know what? You see what they did in Brooklyn? You see what they got going on with the Lakers? Hey, let's you and I go pair up. And then what? So they had to make this move. I agree. I don't think Rondo puts them over the top in front of a fully healthy Laker team. But
Real quick, not to interrupt him, but what could be somewhat of a low-key, stealthy move that could happen in the NBA? You got to watch out, and don't be surprised if this could happen. Do I expect it to? No, but when the LA Clippers get bounced in the second or third round this season and the Lakers win the championship and the Nets are coming out of the East, don't be surprised if in the offseason when Kawhi Leonard's a free agent that he entertains and could potentially sign, but most likely entertains looking to join possibly the Golden State Warriors in Cali. The Golden State Warriors, you're going to have Klay Thompson back. You have Steph Curry. They're going to have some money on the table. And Kawhi Leonard would be an ideal 3 for them. He's already seen how the Kevin Durant effect worked. Kawhi Leonard has 2 championships he's led. He has 2 finals MVPs. If he wanted to, if he could join those Warriors to rack up another championship, do I expect it with his personality and him hanging with a crew of Curry, Klay, and Dre? No, I don't expect that. But you never know. If he were to leave, that would be the top of his choice, I would expect. But no, he's going to stay with the Clippers. He's going to be the quote-unquote man. And he's going to have 2 more years in his peak to try to win a championship, let alone get to a finals. Kawhi Leonard will get to one last finals, but he's not going to win a championship with the Clippers. I fully expect him. That's on my end, though.
if we get Andre Drummond, I'm gonna tell Adam Silver to start engraving the trophy. Lakers 2021.
Andre Drummond?
Oh yeah, Chris. Yeah, Chris.
Drummond?
Put his name on the trophy.
Andre Drummond?
And even though the Nets do have their quote-unquote super team, and you do have LaMarcus Aldridge, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin going to be playing the 5 and 4s at time, but with Anthony Davis and Andre Drummond, the Lakers will be dominating down low, and defensively, they'll be top-notch. So that's going to be a huge advantage to the LA Lakers if and when they're healthy upon that matchup in the finals.
0-8 in playoff games, who's 0-1 in NCAA games, who shoots 36% from the free throw line in playoff games. Stop it!
I'm so confident. I'm about to go down to Staples and start putting balloons and confetti up because I know it's going to drop in July.
You would.
Hey, look, I'm with you, Shannon, but take it step by step. Who knows? Andre Drummond potentially could not join the Lakers. Now, the Lakers are on the front runners. I fully expect him to sign, but yeah, if the Lakers, if and when they get Andre Drummond, they're pretty much set, man. I mean, anything else is just bread and butter for them. Even though the Nets should be the favorites in the whole NBA, but the Nets are not going to defeat the Lakers in the finals. I don't see that happening. That's not being objective, but it's still the glorified years for LeBron James, so it's going to be given to LeBron. Let's jump into Skip what he has to say about this.
Jerry West, who now oversees the Clippers, was playing chess to my checkers. He had it all figured out, I believe. This is just my educated guess. Okay, we can't pay Rondo right here, right now, because the Lakers couldn't pay him either. So what did they do? What did the Clippers do? Jerry West said, just let him have his money. Let him get his 2 years guaranteed $15 million. Let him go to Atlanta. He'll do next to nothing in Atlanta, which is what he did. He's basically just taken a half a year off in Atlanta to collect checks and save himself for the Clippers stretch run. That's what he did. You better believe it. And Jerry West.
Man, Jerry West was not thinking that would go down with. Come on, stop it, Skip. Skip, stop it.
I believe told Rondo at the end of free agency, we will come and get you at the trade deadline. No, I don't care what it is. It happened because it happened right before your very eyes. And they didn't have to give up a key piece like Ibaka or Marcus Morris Sr. They gave up what's left. What's left of Lou Williams. And again, Lou burned his bridge to the Clippers during the bubble when he went to Magic City from Magic Kingdom. That was the end of look, and he's been a great leader for them, and they all love him, and he was beloved in the locker room. We get that, but he always had an old man's game, and now he's just looking like an old man to me because he's ground bound and he's not an electric athlete. He's just not that guy. So it's not like you're giving up a lot for Rondo, who's going to mean everything to you. He will turn back into playoff Rondo, and I don't care what either of you say. The essential, crucial ingredient for the Lakers to win that championship in that bubble was Rondo. He had 19 points in the closeout game. He had 16 points in game 2. Every time I looked around, he was either scoring a big bucket, making a big three, or making a pass or a play that just wins a basketball game.
And I stated last season that Rajon Rondo should have been starting at the 1, at the 2 should have been KCP, at the 3 should have been LeBron James, at 4 AD, and 5 JaVale McGee. Or it could be Dwight Howard, but preferably JaVale McGee. LeBron, of course, he can play point guard. He won a championship, so I'm not going to say anything about that on a negative aspect. Since LeBron won a championship as a point guard, which is very impressive that no one really mentions at all whatsoever. But back down to earth, Rajon Rondo, when he would be in the game, I mean, he'd get everyone off the ball moving. I mean, cuts. I mean, it was just beautiful, fluid, quick basketball. But when you saw LeBron James start games, it was very slow, bringing up, walking on the court, very predictable basketball, nothing too crazy. But when Rondo comes in, he makes magic out there, and that's what the LA Clippers are thirsting for, and they're going to get it. And they're going to be a threat in the playoffs. They will. I fully expect them to meet up the Lakers in the conference finals. That should be a given. That's why I expect that series to go 7 games. Now, I still have the Lakers winning over that, but that's going to be a very tough series. The Jazz and the Suns are not going to be threats in the playoffs like that. Same thing with the Denver Nuggets. I don't care if the Nuggets beat the Clippers last season. That was a quote-unquote fluke. Now, the Nuggets, huge praise because they overcame 3-1 series with the Jazz and then with the Clippers, and they were a storyline. I'll give them their props, but that's not happening back-to-back, especially with these Clippers, especially bringing in Serge Ibaka, Rondo, and Ty Lue. And I'm not going to say Ty Lue in a high praise, but he'll get at him. He'll get at him.
You know what he is, and he is now a Clipper, and he will set them up. To your point, Chris, no good in the clutch. They just don't have a head to the snake to get them the shot to win the game.
Bingo.
They're both capable, Paul George and Kawhi, of making big shots,
Right.
but not if they have to initiate the shot. Is it your turn?
Bingo.
My turn. Are you going to dribble into a shot, or am I? Against Milwaukee, at Milwaukee the other day, I'm like, just somebody take the shot. Well, they look at each other like, am I going to do this or you? They need Rondo to set up the offense and figure out it's going to be your turn, and I'm going to get you the ball.
Well, not only Rondo, but if George Hill gets bought out, which I fully expect that to happen with the Thunder, they need to get George Hill coming off the bench to be a point guard. That'd be huge for them.
At your spot to make that shot. And all of a sudden, they will go from non-clutch to very clutch. They lead the league in three-point shooting. They lead.
Actually, let me backtrack. I believe George Hill got traded to the Philadelphia 76ers because they couldn't get Kyle Lowry. So I'm tracking off that one.
The league in free throw shooting. The last 6 games, they have led the league in defensive efficiency because they are starting to lock in and lock down, and now they have a leader and a true point guard that Pat Bev never obviously was.
Go ahead.
It's over.
We'll have all that. Yeah. There. The Clippers helped themselves, but again, if the Lakers are healthy, and maybe that's becoming a bigger if than we think, I still got them. I still got.
Yeah. The Lakers will be representing the Western Conference. It's going to be a tough series with the Clippers. Fully expect them to meet. Now, one thing I will say for Frank Vogel and the crew, especially if they bring in Drummond at the 5, which will be huge, they need to put LeBron James back to being the full-time point guard. They need to put Dennis Schroeder off the bench to be the 6th man. Because Dennis Schroeder is shooting the 3rd most shots within that team. Anthony Davis's numbers have been down from 28 points to 22 for a reason. And same thing with LeBron James's assists going down from 11 to around 7 to 8 is because Dennis Schroeder has a high ego. He wants to be the quote-unquote starting point guard, taking more shots and putting away less opportunities for AD and LeBron James. That should not happen. Dennis Schroeder's game is fit to be a 6th man to where He can run the offense, he can score, he can do what he likes, but he needs to come off the bench. LeBron needs to start back at the 1. He can still feed Anthony Davis to have high assists again. LeBron James can bring up the ball, and then he can do his thing. At the 2 should be Wesley Matthews. Wesley Matthews was brought there for a reason. He needs to replace and somewhat replicate Danny Green. If he can do 80% of what Danny Green did, which Danny Green was very inconsistent offensively, Wesley Matthews should be good. You need to have LeBron at the 1, West at the 2, KCP at the 3, AD at the 4, and then when you bring in Drummond at the 5. Schroeder off the bench as your 6th man with Kyle Kuzma, with everyone else, and the Lakers should be good to go. But nah, I never cared for Dennis Schroeder starting. I did not like that whatsoever. And the Lakers could be a lot better if him coming off the bench, but someone needs to address that. But yeah, good move by the Clippers. I don't think it's going to cover enough. End it off there.